Here it is, the highly anticipated Midnight Season 1 tuning. I wasn't expecting much, but this was pretty big. Let's talk about what we can expect for Season 1. I think this is going to be good for us here. Blizzard was kind enough to give us a timeline of the expected tuning passes for this season. And because of the staggered nature of the raids, I think it only makes sense to have more frequent tuning passes. I think that's a win. This one, set to take effect on Tuesday, is the first of 4, and from initial impressions, it brings the top performing specs down and the bottom up. In this case, quite substantially. This certainly doesn't fix all of Retribution's issues, but it is certainly a much needed damage boost. We're going to quickly run through all of the changes and what might change because of them, and we should get sims before the raid launches and really see what the best builds, talents, and opener are going to be, but sit tight for now. Our primary issue heading into Season 1 was that our single target was significantly behind, and almost all of the buffs here are directly targeted to address that problem. The most important buff of the bunch is the first one listed. A 30% buff to Final Verdict directly targets our primary spender and single target output. That buff alone is somewhere between a 6 to 10% single target buff, depending on what talent you pick up. I'll go a bit out of order here on the next few buffs, but these two buffs shown here directly impact our single target damage as well. The first one here puts even more damage into the Light Within proc, and the second is a small increase to High Lord's Judgment. Both of these equate to another 2 to 3% DPS when combined. So we'll take it. We did take a 12% nerf to Divine Storm, which I think is a little questionable, but we did gain some large single target improvements, so the trade-off is likely worth it. The next set of changes are focused on hero talents specifically. Herald ended up getting a sizable Dawnlight buff, but that's not likely to put it in a place where it's going to compete with Templar. And this change just increases the single target benefit, and it does limit the effectiveness in AoE. All out, it should be an increase, but not in AoE. Templar got a similar treatment, but I think probably a little better. It received a flat 10% buff to Hammer of Light, which already hit pretty hard, and then it also reallocated some of Empyrean Hammer's damage. And that's going to break down to Empyrean Hammer doing about 4.5% less damage on AoE, but about 30% more on single target. And I'm pretty okay with that trade-off. And so now things get a bit weird. If you're taking Templar Strikes, you're going to gain 25% damage on the related abilities, as well as a 25% buff to melee damage. And to be frank, the Templar Strike and Slash buff is mostly inconsequential, but the melee damage contribution is sizable and could equal around a 3% overall damage buff. For Crusading Strikes, you're going to gain a 25% buff to that ability and an additional 15% auto attack speed. And those extra auto attacks directly impact our holy power generation. Doing a rough comparison, it would translate to an extra 25 holy power over about a 5-minute encounter. And that's quite a lot, especially with Final Verdict doing an additional 30% damage. But I have seen some weird stuff with Sims. At least in my current gear and current build, Templar Strikes was outperforming Crusading Strikes by about 2%. So I guess we'll see. Yet again, we're gonna see what the Sims say, but my gut says Crusading Strikes will still be the go-to. However, I'm really hoping that the Templar Strike and Slash combo are the preferred options. Really, the reality is we want to spend our damage globals on meaningful contributions, and Templar Strike and Slash are not particularly meaningful. So anything that drives more cast of our meaningful abilities like Final Verdict or Blade of Justice or even Judgment or Hammer of Wrath, that's really going to be what we want to prioritize. So my guess is that Templar Strike and Slash are just not going to be the best options. We'll see though. So outside of just increasing our damage, what does this do to our talents? And this is mostly an educated guess, and as I've mentioned before, Sims will tell us for sure, but there are going to be some changes, and I'd bet on it. The first is we're almost guaranteed to be using Seal of the Templar, at least on single target. With Final Verdict being buffed by 30%, being able to pick up an additional 25% on top of that is quite large, and shifts our damage favorably into that spender. I'd also expect to see a shift to execution sentence and the judge, jury, and executioner talent path. And I know as of today, execution sentence is currently bugged and only accumulates 10% damage, but the second that issue is addressed, this is almost guaranteed to be the play for single target. And this puts even more weight into our spenders, which I think is a healthy place to be. We would also likely see a shift to taking Divine Resonance again to put all of our focus in that 1 minute burst window. This does mean we would say goodbye to our Radiant Glory 30-second build, at least on single target. But as soon as sims are updated, I'll report back on what we actually end up taking, but I still think it's valuable to discuss the implications now. And if you haven't already, join the Jesir TV Discord. It does have up-to-date build recommendations, tips and tricks, and other resources. Join using the link below. Also, a big thank you to our patrons. They make creating this content possible. And if you would like to support the channel further, the best place to do it is Patreon. As a member, you gain access to things like log reviews, UI support, blog updates, Jesir Radio, and more. Take a look. As always, thank you for watching, and best of luck in Season 1.